Good evening and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night and agenda setting meeting for January 3rd, 2019. It is 7:06 p.m. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All 7 council members are in attendance this evening. We're going to start with our Citizens Night, citizens' remarks and comments on any municipal item. We always ask for a 5-minute time limit to try to keep your comments condensed to that time frame. So if anyone is signed in, now would be your time to address council. We're going to double check the list real quick here. And also, too, if you have not signed in prior to the meeting, you still have an opportunity to speak. So,
I already signed in.
if you just state your name for the record.
My name is Bill Bruce. I live at 104 Edgemead Drive.
Hi, Bill.
I'm here about the, I guess it's Sandy Hill development.
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, I know they did traffic studies, but I've never heard anything about the comments about all the accidents and the problems at the end of Logan Ferry Road where it meets Center. There's a lot of accidents there, and nobody ever brought this up when they talk about all the added traffic that's going to cause, if any improvements can be made there. I mean, there was an accident there, a 4-car accident, 5:30 today. There's numerous accidents every year for the last 20 years. And it seems like that traffic study never mentioned that. Also, last month's planning meeting, December 19th, it was a last minute put on the agenda that the public wasn't aware of this development being any issue. So there wasn't really much of any public comment except for Tom Henningsen. And I agree with Tom about the improvements need to be made to Maple Crest Lane included in this development, because if it's not, when's it ever going to get done? It would be just like 20 years ago when the Edgemead plan was put in, the Pauline plan was put in. You know, nobody addressed the sidewalk between the original plan between the Pauline and Edgemead. Well, after the people petitioned it, the municipality ended up putting it in afterwards. Is this going to be another situation where nothing's going to be done or stated before this is approved? That road isn't up to municipal standard, and it needs to be up to municipal standard. And this development, that is an entrance. You want to add 2 other entrances there to Logan Ferry Road, but nobody's dealing with the entrance they already have, and the improvements need to be made to Maple Crest Lane. And at the Planning Commission, it was stated the geotechnical plan was not yet finished. And a couple of the Planning Commission members mentioned there were some legal issues. And it says it was approved. It was a 4-2 vote. There were 2 people that were against that being approved. And it had a lot to do with the mine development and how they're going to deal with that problem. I don't know that any professional engineer signed off on any study or certification about the subsidence. That's very shallow mining in that area. And, is the developer going to make sure they make people aware of anybody building there that they could have mining subsidence problems and they better get insured for mine subsidence? Because we have an ordinance 2525 that states you need certification from a professional engineer experienced in mine subsidence to approve such a plan. And I've yet to see where that has been signed off to be safe. And if it's not, how can you do anything but table this until that's totally made aware to council? Thank you.
Thank you. And just for everyone's edification, that these three items are going to be on the agenda this evening. The site plan approval, the cut and fill operation, there's going to be a public hearing for that part of it, and then the subdivision. So we'll be talking a lot about these items that Bill brought up prior to this, or at his comment. We'll be speaking about that later in the meeting here. Tom Henningsen.
Later, please. Later.
I'm sorry.
You want
Oh,
to speak
oh,
later?
At the, you want to speak at the,
Sandy Hill, yeah.
for the cut and fill operation? Okay. And I have no one else that is signed in this evening. Would anyone else like to sign in? We do have some other members that look like they're representing other entities.
No?
Yep.
Okay.
And then, sir, there should be a blank sign-in sheet up there. If you could sign your name and state your name for the record.
I brought my crayon.
Thank you, sir.
Jim Roosevelt, I live on Marguerite Street, Monroeville. And I thank you for I'm going to just make it real quick. First, I'd like to apologize to the residents who planned to attend our meeting last night, the zoning hearing board, that due to other matters that came up, we couldn't have it. It was postponed so they'll get their say-so next month. Hopefully, we all will. I came tonight to thank everybody because I heard the list of houses was coming up to be torn down. Then I got here and saw the list, and the house that I was here to thank you for tearing down is not even on it. So I came up to speak for some of the other residents in that area, the ones that live on each side of this one house in particular. Bob, can I just go through with this? Because you said to wait, you had some
Well,
information.
no. If you want to say what you have to say, then I can give you you're talking about the McKinney Road house, right?
Yes.
And I can give you an update on what's happened and why that wasn't on the list of the earlier meeting.
Excellent. The house has been vacant for a minimum of 7 to 8 years. Seeing some of the pictures at the previous meeting you had, they look like places you could move into compared to the ones I'm talking about. There's been 4 water breaks in front of the front door and garage door that the water has actually gone down through the house at least 4 times. There's a huge hole in the roof. Part of it's covered by a tarp. The back porch has been torn down by, I believe the municipality came down and tore it down because the roof above it fell off and fell down halfway. All the gutters are gone. The grass is on the cutting list that they spoke about earlier. The house is costing the municipality a lot of money. They're paying for the places to be cut. There's a lot of little kids, adjacent properties right next door, and it's not suitable for habitation. Like I said, some of those other houses look better than the one I'm talking about, and it's been empty for quite a while, and we just want it to be gone. It was listed at one time as a fixer-upper for $40,000, and that went by the wayside. But that's basically it. That's what I wanted to speak to you about.
Well, the reason it wasn't on the list, the Tricog Land Bank is actually in the process of acquiring that house. And I actually am on the board of the Tricog Land Bank. And we get a report, we have a monthly meeting, we get a report. That's a property that we've been asking the Tricog Land Bank to either take, or if they don't take it, we'll put it on our demolition list. They did take the property. They intend to rehabilitate the property. Unless they would find that it was so bad that they can't, then they'll tear it down. Unfortunately, the thing with the land bank, in order for the land bank to acquire clean title to properties and not have any of the back taxes or any of the things that keep other people from buying them, it has to go through a sheriff's sale. It was actually supposed to go through a sheriff's sale last year, but because of some title issues, it took longer to get it on the list. It is now on the list to go through a sheriff's sale in the next couple of months, in the first quarter of 2019. As soon as that happens, then the land bank gets the deed to the property. The land bank will come in and they'll start to take measures to restore the property, or if they find out that it's deteriorated too much in the interim, they'll tear the property down at their expense.
Okay.
So one way or the other, that property is going to be acted upon in
Either
the near
fixed up or
future.
taken down.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Thank
Right,
you.
folks.
Thanks, Jim.
Would anyone else like to address council on any municipal item? Seeing, I'm going to close that portion of the meeting, and we're going to move over to our agenda-setting meeting. We have an executive session announcement that council conducted an executive session for personnel and litigation reasons prior to tonight's show cause hearings and Citizens Night, beginning at 5:30 PM until 6 PM. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at the January 8th, 2019 council meeting. Moving over to our minutes, the approval of our minutes. Council, in front of you, you have the Citizens Night meeting of December 6, 2018, the council work session of December 6, 2018, and the regular council meeting of December 11, 2018. Any questions, additions, or corrections of those minutes? Seeing none. We have our tax collections. Any questions or comments? Council. List of bills and budget transfers. I'm going to start with Mrs. Gatos. Any questions this evening about the list of bills?
Thank you.
Mr. Poach?
I do not have any, sir.
Mr. Harvey?
I have one. On page 23 of the list of bills, there's a vendor, Gallagher Bassett Services, for $7,700, and it didn't really give a good description what it was for, so I thought I would ask.
That's for deductibles drawn for, there's probably, I'd say, 7 claims that Gallagher Bassett went back and found that we did not pay the deductibles on. So we paid one large sum for those claims.
Very good, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Harvey?
Nope, that's all.
Mr. Johns?
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Arsenko?
None.
Mr. Duncan?
I have nothing.
Mr. Wilson?
thank you.
Thank you. And you'll have your payroll report. Any questions or comments, council?
No, sir.
No, sir.
And we're going to move over to our consent agenda. We have our new business, 18-11-ST AVETS. Mr. Little.
Okay, the first application is applicant is requesting site plan approval to construct a 2-story addition totaling 9,376 square feet to the existing veterinarian business and associated site amenities. The property is located at 4224 Northern Pike and known as parcel 857C393 in a C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Good evening. If you could just state your names for the record.
I'm Sean Smarek, representing Squish, the landlord, and also as a board member of Compassion First Pet Hospitals that runs the business there now.
Very good. And did you sign in earlier?
I did not.
Is there still a sheet there in front of you?
Yes, there is.
If you could just sign your,
Sure.
sign in, that'd be great. You.
I'm Kate Sikowski from Farringham McCurdy Gray, the landscape architect on this project.
Very good. And whenever you get a chance, if you could sign in as well, that'd be great. So you can go on with your presentation.
Okay, Sean is going to give a brief overview of the expansion proposed.
Sure. Since 2005, September 14th to be exact, AVETS, a 24-hour emergency and specialty veterinary hospital, has called 4224 Northern Pike home. We've grown to employing over 80 folks. We see approximately 13,000 pet emergencies a year at that location. It's been a great service not only just to the local community but all of Western Pennsylvania. Those services have grown to include specialty care such as surgery, internal medicine, critical care. We are out of room. And so, as I mentioned, I'm wearing 2 hats today. I no longer actually work at AVETS, but I am still a landlord, and so it is desirous on both the current owner of the practice, called Compassion First Pet Hospitals, and the landlord that we stay in that location and expand so we can accommodate the growth of additional specialists, parking for clients, and the growth that we continue to experience. It's desirous to stay in the location. It's, again, a known place. People know it's a destination. People come here for that service. The closest one is either in the South Hills or in the North Hills.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, just a little bit about the site work involved on this project. So we are proposing an approximately 9,300 square foot building addition. That's gross square feet. We are expanding the rear parking lot by approximately 20 spaces. We are going to remediate an existing accessible parking space and install an additional space in order to meet code requirements. In order to expand the parking lot, we will be installing a retaining wall on the southern side of the property. This wall will be 1 to 12 feet in height. We are getting that wall engineered. When we have those drawings, we will be forwarding them to the municipality for your review. Utility work involved includes additional stormwater systems to treat the runoff that we are generating from the additional impervious surfaces. And we are revising the lighting layout in the rear lot due to the parking revision and just for visibility concerns. We'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you may have about this project.
And is the entire addition on the east side of the building? Is that where, like, maybe where your
Yes.
dumpster, the refuse currently is?
Yes.
And you're going into that lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
The dumpster area will remain, but we're pushing
That's
that
the area
direction.
you're building into?
Yes.
Council, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, you said you're gonna raise the lighting now. You're gonna make sure it just stays predominantly on your property because
Yeah,
that
we
seems
have,
to be an issue with a lot of new construction that people they don't like light on their property, if you will.
Yeah, the poles themselves will stay relatively the same, the heights of the poles, but we do have a photometrics plan that we have submitted to the municipality, and all the light was worked in to stay on property.
Mr. Wilden, anything from your office?
Additional, the plan has been submitted and reviewed, and everything looks to be in order.
Mr. Hughes?
Nothing with the traffic or any traffic issues or anything, Paul?
There's a slight increase, but nothing that warrants a traffic study.
I have a question. Do you plan on adding some additional specialties to your treatment center?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, anything specifically?
Oncology, neurology, cardiology, which would require an MRI, interventional radiology suite with
Great. Okay.
fluoroscopy.
Yeah, you guys do a great job.
Thank you, thank you. To the issue of the increased traffic, really don't believe, while we'll have more, while there may generate more patients, this is not a high volume, we're not going to see an increase, a doubling of our patients. While there might be some additional increase in and out, it's really not going to be like you open up a drive-through and it's going to be going that way.
Very good.
All right.
Any other questions, council?
No.
Thank you. We'll be considering this and voting on this on the Tuesday, January 8th meeting.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
January 8th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you said 18th.
Okay, council, we have the next three items are for Sandy Hill Development, 18-6-ST, 18-3-SUB, and 18-10C. There is a public hearing for the 18-10-C, which is the conditional use for the cut and fill operation. From experience, these things typically all blend together. So if council's okay with that, maybe we'll just kind of place all three together as we discuss things.
Yes.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're here to represent the applicant.
Yes.
Now, if you want to just maybe go through your presentation.
Absolutely.
And if you want to break it up into three sections, if you just want to do them all, whatever you're planning on presenting to us. And
Why don't we go through all of our sections, traffic, geotech, everything, and then we can pause it and have questions?
yeah, exactly.
That
So,
kind of makes sense?
yeah, and then
Okay.
do you want to do the swearing in for the public hearing now, or do you want to wait till they present?
Why don't we do it now?
Okay, so if there's anyone in the audience that plans on adding any testimony or adding any questions to this, if they could please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Very good, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Is this good where it's at?
We'll check that in a second. Joe, if you could put that camera up,
Looks like it. Pretty close.
come towards me a little more there. And
Right there.
Is that okay?
Yep.
it looks pretty good.
While he's getting set up, can I do a real quick introduction so everybody knows who's here from the municipality side?
Absolutely, yeah. Go ahead.
If you
Up
would,
to you.
please.
Yeah, please.
Darren Meyer is from Herbert Rolling Rubik. He's done the traffic engineering study for the municipality. Charlie Jordan from MS Consultants, who has done the stormwater and subdivision reviews as well as overall municipal ordinances. Joe Ballard has done a geotech review as far as the municipality All three are professional engineers in the Commonwealth of PA.
Okay, and then gentlemen, we just finally got a camera on. If you just raise your hand real quick, just to give a quick wave so we know that you're here. There's just the folks watching on TV, they know you're here. Okay, very good. Sir, if you could just say your name for the record.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ed Moore, and I'm with Scheffler and Company. And we'll put on a real quick presentation for you folks, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Very good.
Also with me here tonight is Graham Ferry. He's our stormwater engineer, so he will make a brief presentation on the stormwater management and answer any questions on that. Josh Haydo is here. He is with David E. Wooster and Associates, and he can answer any traffic questions that may come up. Tonight we also have Chris Samios. He's a professional engineer with Pennsylvania Soil and Rock, and he prepared the geotechnical report, which is currently submitted and under review by the municipality. And then also Gary Scheffler is here to answer any questions as well. Just a real brief introduction. The project location is the former Maple Crest Golf Course. It's located along Logan's Ferry Road, and there are 71.82 acres of the total property. Of that, 27.41 is dedicated to open space, which will remain open space for the foreseeable, or forever, I guess. There are 133 total lots in this development, 133 single-family lots. A few key design elements that we paid attention to when we first started the project was avoidance of any existing streams, wetlands, and steep slopes. As I mentioned, there are two site locations into the development. One is directly across from, I believe it's Pauline, and the other one is just south of the existing Maple Crest Lane. As far as Maple Crest Lane is concerned, the front portion will remain. There's a portion that will be removed for us to install our proposed loop road, and then we'll provide continued access through the remaining back portion of Maple Crest Lane by providing a new roadway, just a stub of a roadway, which will be designed and constructed to township standards, so the folks that live in the back of Maple Crest Lane will always have continuous access to their property. There are 4 stormwater management basins on the property that will control the increase in stormwater runoff. And as I mentioned before, Graham will get into those here in a little bit. Just some of the features that are on the site. There's a small parklet proposed, which will have a couple of benches and a small lawn area. There is a mailbox cluster proposed, so each individual home will not have mailboxes. There'll be clusters. There'll be a cluster for that. And then on the red that you can see on this plan is a continuous sidewalk along both sides of the road, as well as along Logan's Ferry Road for all the frontage that we own. So there'll be sidewalks all along there as well. The project will be done in 3 phases. The first phase will consist of, the first phase is 57 lots and 31 acres total. The second phase is 41 lots and 16 acres. And then you can see the third phase here is 35 lots and 25 acres for a total of 133 single-family lots. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Graham, and he'll talk about the stormwater management, and then at the end, he'll answer any questions you folks might have.
Good evening. My name is Graham Ferry. I'm a senior civil engineer with Scheffler and Company, and I'm also a registered professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I'm going to talk very briefly about the hydrology affecting this specific site. And basically, when we talk about the hydrology, we're basically looking at if, are we going to have any types of downstream flooding issues? And that's really what we're looking to address, at least from my standpoint. And typically, and there's a number of ways that we can reduce flooding, but the 3 most common ways are to reduce peak runoff rates. That's one of the 3, and we do that by utilizing the municipality's, ordinance and current standards already in place, along with specific requirements from the Allegheny County Act 167 plan that was adopted mid-year last year, as well as additional Pennsylvania DEP and other accepted industrial standards. The second important way or key method of assisting in reducing flooding is through direct reduction of the physical volume of water. And we typically can achieve that through volume mitigation practices per the Pennsylvania DEP. And just to take a step further into that, that's most commonly achieved through direct groundwater infiltration, through the bottom of management facilities. And the third best way to mitigate flooding or to reduce flooding or to eliminate flooding is obviously to create no obstructions in the floodplain. And this specific project does not include any obstructions of any type into any delineated floodplain. And if we take a look at the project area here, this is roughly our site. It was drawn by hand, so it's not exact. But when we take a look at that, the project area, when it's overlain with the municipality's stormwater release rate areas, we have two areas that we are impacting. One of them is, and a large portion of the site is within the 50% reduction area. And essentially that means that the proposed release rate must be at least 50% of the existing condition, or basically we have to decrease the rate by 50%. And the second portion of the project, which is that small area to the north, overlays the 60% reduction area, and it basically means the exact same thing, except that we get a little bit of extra leeway in this, and that we only have to reduce 40% by, not exceeding the 60% that we're allowed to release. Let's see. This specific project, as Ed had mentioned, discharges in four different locations from 4 separate infiltration detention basin facilities. The first of which, again, is in the northern portion of the site that will discharge into the 60% reduction rate area, and that area is tributary to Thompson Run. The other 3 outfall locations, originating from the other 3 detention facilities, infiltration facilities, again, are located in the 50% reduction rate area, and this area is also tributary to Thompson Run. And if we, after all the calculations are run regarding the runoff and all that, implementing all the necessary parameters and standards that are placed upon us, if we take a look at the 3 outfall locations within the 50% release rate area, the combined outfall from them needs to release water at a rate of at least 50% or greater. And you can see for every storm frequency period here, we either meet or exceed that standard. For the remaining outfall in the northern portion of the site, which is in the 60% release district, meaning that we have to decrease by 40%. Again, you can see with the results here, we either meet or exceed for every storm frequency that's required. And with what I say here, again, we are showing a significant reduction in stormwater rates. I mean, typically it's usually a 1-to-1 comparison in a lot of municipalities, whereas in this municipality it does have the additional rate release requirements. So, I mean, for the most stringent of the areas, the 50%, all of the water that is released from that site will be released at a rate of at least 50% post-development as to what it is currently out there right now. And again, in the other portion, it'll be 60%.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Harvey, go ahead.
And I don't know whether Mr. Weldon or Mr. Hugus or you could answer it, maybe all of you. Who's responsible for maintaining those detention ponds?
I believe in this case, is it the homeowners association? Yes.
As we've been that route before, and we're about to spend a lot of money on non-maintenance of the very same thing down in Edgemead Plant.
Understood.
And so I just wanted to know who's dedicated to maintaining those detention ponds, because they need maintenance.
Right. Well, I think that'll be taken care of during the agreement and development process. And the homeowners association will be legally required.
We have something that guarantees that the municipality.
It'll be done with the developer's agreement.
Okay, and then maybe now's the right time as well. You mentioned a park. Would that also be, did you mention there'd be a little park area?
Oh, the parkway, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Would that also be maintained by the homeowners association, not by the borough, and that would be in the agreement as well?
Yeah, the HOA will maintain like the grass strips and everything
Well,
in the open space.
We can't, sir, we can't hear you actually right now.
Microphone.
Yeah,
And
the-
once,
the
and
HOA
one second, please. And then once you've answered the question, we'll keep going through the
Keep going
presentation, then
through
we'll
the-
get all of our questions done. But go ahead and answer
Yeah,
the
the
question.
HOA will be responsible for the parklet, like the grass strips, the entrance signs, things like that. so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
there's paved roads and things down to the, not paved, gravel roads and things down to the detention basins to help with access for maintenance and things like that, to help the HOA. So they're set up that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on to the second step that I had mentioned, this is the volume mitigation step. And as I said, this is achieved by designing some sort of a system that will prevent a specific amount of volume of water from leaving the site. And this volume is determined by PA DEP regulations that state the increase between the post-development condition and the pre-development condition during a 2-year storm event cannot be allowed to leave the site. There are instances where they, from pre to post conditions, that volume actually goes down. That's a very rare situation that it happens, but it can happen. But in this case, they go up in every situation. So, and again, that's basically what I had just said. Meaning that if the volume increases between the proposed and existing conditions for the 2-year return period, the volume of water cannot leave the site via pipe or surface flow. Technically, it will be recharged into the groundwater system, and then it kind of just follows the natural aquifer system within the ground. Let's see. The water for the project is mitigated in all 4 of the detention basins, detention/infiltration basins. This information has been provided in the past on all of our submissions to Monroeville for review, as well as to the County Conservation District for their review during the NPDES approval process. I've been working hand in hand with them. I expect a final approval and a permit issuance within, I would say, within the next 30 days. And this is just a few shots from our drawings showing the different types of infiltration systems that would show up in the bottoms of these basins. They're typically just some sort of gravel bed with a perforated underdrain. And furthermore, with the volume mitigation, these are just some of our calculations. Here on what would be my left-hand side, I have it circled in red here. For this one specific drainage area, between the pre and the post conditions, just for the 2-year storm event, we have an increase in volume of nearly 56,000 cubic feet of water. So it's a substantial amount for such a small storm. And then on the other side, again, circled in red, you can see what our requirement is, what we're providing, and if that number is negative, then we've met our requirement, and in this case, we do. And finally was the floodplain discussion that I had mentioned briefly before. And if we are to take a FEMA map of the area and roughly overlay our site over it, we can see that there's no impacts or any types of obstructions placed within a delineated floodplain area. Okay, so to summarize some of that, again, I said there were basically 3 key points that we were looking to achieve. That would be to reduce the runoff amounts, and we've done that for both the 50% and 60% requirements that are put upon us by the municipality. We've achieved our volume mitigation requirements. And along with volume mitigation, one of the beneficial side effects of that is that it also, particularly in the manner that we're using it, it also improves water quality in that it assists in mitigating issues with thermal pollution within the water by allowing it to sit detained for a while to naturally cool off. It removes suspended solids, again, through the detention process, and again, floatables as well. And a lot of these things, these smaller storms are the ones that typically cause the most pollution, which is what we typically call the first flush, where everything immediately is washed away and reaches the basin. So this is actually a benefit, as far as water quality goes as well. And again, I said the three most effective ways of reducing the chance of flooding are to reduce runoff rates, which we've achieved. We've reduced the physical volume of water, and we've created no obstructions in the floodplain. And as far as any types of submissions and reviews by the municipality, I believe I'm in receipt of the last letter provided to Monroeville from MS Consultants addressing stormwater issues, and I believe that letter indicated that there are no outstanding issues at this point, that all outstanding comments had been addressed. Okay, does anyone have any specific questions on
I
that
have a
topic?
question. Based on the rainfall that we experienced this year in the Pittsburgh area, approximately 58 inches, which is 22 inches or 23 inches over our normal rainfall.
Mhm.
We average about 3 inches a month throughout the year. How will that affect the stormwater position if that happens in 2019 or 2020?
Well, when we design these basins, we are constrained to a certain extent by the parameters that the municipality puts upon us. We are given specific runoff values that we use to prepare our calculations. Every stormwater management facility and basin, whatever it happens to be, always has some sort of flexibility built into it. I can't say, I can't provide an assurance that if you receive 3 catastrophic flood, storm events back to back to back within a 36-hour period, that you won't have issues.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah,
when one of the hurricanes comes up the coast, I mean, that's a sort of...
And it really doesn't say that we're going to have the same issue.
Right. The
down
basin,
the
a
road.
basin is typically designed to attenuate flow for a minimum of 24 hours and to a maximum of 72 hours, meaning that the basin has to fill and completely drain within 72 hours. So you typically have a 3-day period in which you are mitigating,
So in other words, the stormwater will be diverted into a basin.
Yes.
And it'll be released within 72 hours, is that correct?
Yes, that's a typical standard.
Basically,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Right.
So-
And you keep in mind too, it's not you're not working in a vacuum either. As the basin begins to dewater, if another event comes through, it does continue to have some capacity.
Right, yeah. It can only, yeah, well, that makes complete sense. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Paul or MS Consultants, you agree with their stormwater management program?
Yes. We did issue the consistency letter, I believe,
Just a couple of days ago. Yeah.
So you reviewed it and everything's fine from our end?
Correct.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be doing the next portion here.
Oh, great,
too,
yeah,
as
and
well.
we'll
Okay.
probably have more questions for you as
Sure.
we get going, and but we'll let you do your
Wonderful.
presentation, then we'll ask all the questions, and then we'll certainly hear from the
Okay.
public. And
We've added an additional discussion topic here about acid mine drainage. And I have to be completely frank and upfront with everyone that I am not necessarily an expert in this area, but our sub-consultant was unable to make it tonight. I understand it, I can deal with it, but very specific questions will probably be better answered by that individual or that consultant group. But I'll do the best I can, and at least trying to give some broad brush strokes here.
Understood.
So, in regards to acid mine drainage, we all know, everyone knows, everyone involved with the project, everyone living near the project knows that there are potential issues in and around the site as a result of previous underground mining, as well as the overall presence of carbonaceous materials. As a result of this, a sub-consultant environmental company has been brought in to serve in a capacity where they will assist in mitigating and dealing with any issues that arise prior to, during, and after construction.
Mitigating how?
Well, do you mean dealing with the actual problem? I'm actually going to touch on that if you want.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay, sure. No, that's okay. Moody and Associates will serve as the environmental sub-consultant, and their role will be addressing any acid mine drainage issues that arise. And Moody geologists worked on the following mine pool related projects throughout Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio since the 1970s. Hydrogeologic impact studies, mine barrier studies, mine pool prediction studies, mine pool mapping, acid mine drainage discharge mitigation, and mine discharge prediction. Prior to actually, any substantial construction work beginning, there will be a substantial due diligence period performed by Moody and Associates, as well as everyone involved with the project. And the general approach to dealing with and investigating these kinds of issues can be described in what I'm going to talk about right here. They would typically look for and identify potential discharges or seeps from mines or coal seams. They would discuss potential issues or concerns with the Pennsylvania DEP, Bureau of Mining, far in advance of, hopefully, of encountering any type of major incident or issue. They would investigate pyrite-containing rock near the surface or in the subsurface that may be encountered during the site development. They will review any existing mine pool issues if they exist. They will look at potential gas migration issues from the deep mined areas or the existing coals on the property. And again, here we'll briefly touch on the potential treatment options if something is encountered that needs to be addressed. And essentially, based on everyone's understanding of what's there right now currently, prior to the major due diligence process, it would probably be expected that some sort of passive treatment measures would be put in place. And passive treatment measures are typically things like limestone-lined channels, constructed wetlands, things like that. And basically, we would be looking for any type of passive treatment method that would lower pH values of the water through the use of the bicarbonate buffering systems, as well as to accelerate, if possible, the precipitation of any metals from the drainage water. And this last figure is one that I've included because this has been a topic that has come up in the past. What we're looking at here is obviously the site layout, as well as the known limits of the coal outcrop that are, underlie the site. And when we take a look at the location of the infiltration basins, because there was a concern about attempting to infiltrate water into areas that are affected by acid mine drainage, we can see here that the basin to the north is far, is pretty far out away from, the known areas of the coal outcrop. And on top of that, it's a minimum of 90 feet lower than the bottom elevation of the coal as well. So there's really no anticipated issues with that basin at all. And the remaining three basins are far beyond the limits of the coal outcrop. So it's not believed that there would be any types of issues with those as well. Of course, if anything was, to be discovered during construction, it would have to be dealt with. But it's not anticipated that these types of devices would cause any issues. And if there's no other questions for me, I'll pass it on to Josh.
Yeah, we'll go through the presentation,
Sure.
and we'll probably end up calling you back up,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Thank you.
You want to use this one? It might be clearer if we put
I may not need it, but.
you set that instead of the computer.
Let's see. All right.
Move your laptop, Graham.
Well, yeah, I want to keep it for after this one. Hi, I'm Josh Hader with David Worcester and Associates, traffic engineering consultants, and we prepared the traffic study for this development back in September. It's pretty good. It's going to be too small. It's going to be too small to read anyway, but I have my list here. We studied the study area for this development consisted of 6 intersections on Logan's Ferry Road, starting from Old Frankstown Road to the north, and going south all the way to Beatty Road.
If you want to put, actually, are you going to use the laptop right now? Or?
Well, we'll use the laptop the rest of the way, if that's okay.
Yeah, if your information's on there, go ahead.
Yeah. All right.
I just need a second to zoom it in once he's set.
Okay, no problem, Joe.
So the traffic study was done because just as I started to look at the map, you took it away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So where, did you do all the way up Logan's Ferry, you said? And something about Beatty?
I can go back. Yeah, Logan's Ferry Road.
Can you point to?
Sure, absolutely. The northernmost intersection
Okay.
is Old Frankstown Road,
Okay.
and then the southernmost is Beatty? Is
Okay.
it Beatty or Beatty? I've been calling
Beatty.
it
Beatty Road.
Beatty. So 6 existing intersections along Logan's Ferry Road, and then additionally, we studied Old William Penn Highway with Center Road.
So I'm sorry, could you just read off the 6, just so we, all the intersections, if you have them there in front of you?
From north to south, it's Logan's Ferry Road with Old Frankstown Road, Logan's Ferry Road with Pauline Drive, which is also opposite the proposed northern access to the site, Logan's Ferry Road with Willow Hedge Drive or Hazel Drive, Logan's Ferry Road with Woodhaven Drive, Logan's Ferry Road with Center.
Center Road.
And at that point, Logan's Ferry becomes Haymaker and Old Haymaker with Beatty.
Then Beatty.
And then Old William Penn and Beatty. Or I'm sorry, and Center.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Okay, and then this is just
Yep,
a
just the
list
ones
of
you
those
just rattled off. Good.
same intersections that we just spoke about. So in all, turning movement counts were performed at 7 existing intersections. We studied the morning or AM and evening peak hours, which is consistent with industry standards for residential development. Counts were performed from 7 to 9 AM and 4 to 6 PM. Those typically reflect rush hour traffic on the adjacent streets. Count locations and times were selected pursuant to a scope of study prescribed by Monroeville's traffic engineering consultant. So we did scope the study with Monroeville before we began. Counts were performed back in September while school was in session. Site distance was measured at both of the proposed site roads. As previously mentioned, the northernmost site access is opposite Pauline Drive. The second southern access, what we're calling Site Road B, be located to the south, and it would form a new T intersection. No new traffic control is proposed at either of those locations, other than the new site roads will obviously have stop signs coming out of the development. But there won't be any stop signs placed on Haymaker, on Logan's Ferry Road.
Question?
Sure.
Hi. What is your estimated volume, added volume to Logan's Ferry Road when the project's completed?
I'll get there in just a little bit. Do you mind if
Okay,
I stick
okay,
to?
thanks. Sure.
No problem. No problem at all. In addition to measuring to make sure that we have safe site distance at the proposed accesses, we did a speed study on Logan's Ferry Road. We measured northbound speeds of 37 miles per hour and southbound speeds of 36 miles per hour. So site distance is available to meet these observed speeds, even though they're in excess of the posted speed limit.
Should be 25, right?
Yes.
Yes, posted 25. And we took them in locations where we expected them to be the highest, to be the most conservative. And there's plenty of sight distance.
Even with the speed bumps?
Took them as far away from the speed bumps as possible. Additionally, accident data was requested from PennDOT for the 5 previous calendar years. The majority of the intersections, save for other than 2 of them, had no reportable accidents over the course of the past 5 years. 2 of the intersections that did have results were the Center Avenue intersection with Logan's Ferry Road and the Beatty intersection. The Center intersection had 22 accidents over the course of those 5 years. Beatty had 10. No fatalities. And the majority of those accidents were angle collisions. And I should note that both of those intersections include, as well as the intersection of Old William Penn and Center, were identified as needing or requiring traffic signal control in the municipality's comprehensive plan. So it's expected that once that is implemented, that will significantly reduce the amount of angle collisions. But ultimately, no identifiable crash patterns were identified that could be mitigated with any traffic control or geometric improvements. Trip generation was based on 135 single-family homes. I believe it's now only 133. So to get back to your question, the number of total trips anticipated to be generated by the development during a day, during a 24-hour period, is about 1,400. So that's 700 leaving, 700 coming back.
Right, right. And what is the volume today?
The volume today, can I get back to you on that at the end of the meeting?
I just want to see what the impact is going to be.
Okay. The findings of the study identified that only 3 of the 7 study intersections operate at levels of service. It's what's considered poor levels of service, E or F. It's just like a report card. Those are the Center Road intersection, Beatty Road, and Old William Penn. All the other intersections to the north, so everything north of Center, is expected to operate at level of service of B or better, even in post-development conditions. So that's very good. The 3 intersections that are experiencing poor level of service post-development also experience poor level of service today. So these 3 intersections are operating at or above capacity even under existing conditions.
For the public, explain what that means. The poor conditions, if you will.
Basically, these intersections are currently experience volumes that are...
Talk to the mic.
You can still talk.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, okay,
no
I'm
problem.
sorry.
They can still hear you.
These intersections, the volumes through these intersections are higher than what they can accommodate with their current traffic signal control. So as I mentioned earlier, these 3 intersections were all identified in the comprehensive plan as, let's see exactly what the phrase was, failing unsignalized intersections, and signalization was recommended for all 3. So ultimately, when signals and or turn lanes are implemented as part of the comprehensive plan, that should increase the capacity, reduce the volume to capacity ratio, and improve.
No, we understood that. I just wanted you to explain that for the public to,
Sure, absolutely.
to understand.
Yes. And so I've included some percentages here just to kind of demonstrate the amount of traffic that we're adding, at least to these 3 intersections. So to the Center Road intersection, which is it's probably the worst off right now, our development will only increase traffic by about 4%. And that's about 1 additional vehicle every 45 to 60 seconds. So it's not an appreciable increase in traffic.
Hold on.
And going further away, it obviously decreases even more. So at the Beatty Road intersection, it's an increase of about 2 to 3%, which is an additional.
Well, here's what happens. Those people come out of that project, your project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they make a right turn on Locust Ferry Road.
Correct.
Because if the cost of those homes in the project between $250,000, $300,000, $350,000, they have to go somewhere to go to work. Okay?
Right.
So what happens is they go down to Center Road, they cross Center Road, they cross Beatty Road in order to get to the Parkway or to the hospitals or wherever they're working.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to add 700 vehicles through that intersection to go to work in the morning. Is that
No,
right?
That's over the course of 24 hours. 700 vehicles over the course of 24 hours. I can actually tell you how many will go through that, will leave
Well,
during the
I'm
morning.
not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying that somewhere along the line, that intersection has to be improved so that it's not dangerous. Because if you're gonna increase the flow of traffic on that intersection with four-way stop signs, you have people coming from Plum down there. They either come down, there's a little turn off that comes up to a stop sign. I don't know what they call that road, but in the morning, there's a lot of traffic there on Center Road.
Right.
So in order to get across Center Road or get out of Logan's Ferry onto Center or onto Beatty or whatever you're going, it's a lot of traffic. So somewhere along the line, traffic man, what do?
Well, we,
Center County.
what me too, Darren, or I can,
I guess I'll
Here's our traffic guy.
just quickly chime in. What their study identified, Darren Meyer with Herbert Roland Grubik, the municipality's traffic engineer, is we requested them to study those intersections, those outlier intersections, because we knew there was existing deficiencies there. The best we can do from the requiring mitigation, they're off-site improvements, so we can't really require the developer to make improvements.
I'm not asking for that.
But that's what we
I'm
wanted.
just saying that there's an issue
Yes,
there
there's definitely an
that
issue, and there
to be
has been an
addressed.
issue
I
that was identified.
don't mean that your issue, your project issue, I mean our traffic issue.
But that would be a problem with the county, because that's a county, Center's a county road, so what do
Well,
we do?
that's why
The
we got
county.
him, and he's gonna explain to us.
Oh, who is?
And the 700 trips wouldn't
Wish someone
necessarily
by now
all go
had
to
already.
one intersection. It could be split, some might go north, some might go south. So
Yes,
might
ta-
get 1/3 to the north, 2/3 to the south,
Well,
so.
yeah, but if you're
Here we go.
you're in a home that you have a mortgage of 350, 400, whatever
See if they can get enough
the
residents
price
to
of the home is, you're not going down to Walmart or Kmart and working at Kmart. You're going to Pittsburgh, or you're going to Greensburg, or you're going to a place where you can make your $250,000 in order for you to qualify for that mortgage.
Paul, to answer your question, we did.
And they're actually going south.
We did assume, based on existing volumes, that the majority of traffic will head in the southern direction. But at each intersection, traffic does dissipate and go different ways. So all 700 of those trips will not go through every single one of the study intersections.
It'll be spaced out.
Right. And again, that is over the course of
Yeah.
24 hours.
See, thank you. Yeah, I understand it. Now, were you gonna explain to us what we can do or what has to be done there?
I think the solutions were generally spelled out in the comp plan that was done around 2005. It's just a matter of funding to implement those.
And whose
improvements.
responsibility is that? Financial responsibility.
From a traffic signal standpoint, it would go back to the municipality.
Or the county on a county road.
The county won't let us do it.
No.
What?
I've addressed the county 3 times on that intersection. They will
Well,
not.
now that there's gonna be additional volume on that
They
road,
will not put a stop sign or a signal there. They won't do
well, we
it.
have stop signs there, right?
No,
No.
Isn't it four-way?
no.
No, two.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
They will not put a stop sign or a traffic signal there. And their traffic engineer went into great length to explain to me why. I couldn't get into it now. We'd be here till tomorrow.
Right.
But they
Right.
will, the
And he
county
probably
will,
doesn't
they
understand.
will not do it.
Yeah.
They won't do it.
Yeah.
Period.
Darren, what's the intersection grade there?
Intersection, the intersection grade?
Yeah, what grade is it? D, E?
Oh, at Center or Beatty?
Center. Well, both, really.
E and F,
I
Probably
think
D.
they're all generally E's or F's. These are the existing conditions.
Okay.
And then the study shows between 4% and 3%
3%.
additional traffic.
But that does not change the grade level of those
Once you
intersections.
get down to EF, it's at capacity, so it's really, we've already identified something should be done at some point, yes.
Yeah, but the traffic traveling west, I would say coming down the hill, is that west on there? Anyway, they're flying. They're not slowing down for anything, and you're taking your life in your hands when you're
Wait till
trying
they
to cross
repave
that
it.
intersection.
And my parents drive it all the time. They're off Woodhaven, so.
Oh, yeah,
I
you
know
used
what-
to live
I
there,
know
yeah.
what that's like, and that's where I grew up, so. You better be careful, that's all.
Yeah,
Same as anywhere else.
Beatty's already enough.
The county wants to keep Center Road nonstop from Boyce Park to Old William Penn.
Oh, yeah. So somebody gets injured badly in an accident, God forbid, then what happens? I'm not on my left turn tonight, you know?
Not yet.
I was gonna say you stop all left turns.
Or you ask people if they're gonna turn left.
No,
and
they're not
turn in.
gonna put traffic controls up.
There wouldn't be any kind of, Mr. Harvey, any potential for like a flashing yellow light and a flashing red light the other way?
Something just to slow that traffic coming down the
They're not
hill.
gonna-
They
Well,
said
but
that's
boys-
our problem with enforcement.
All right, folks, if we could just pull back together here.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm
Mis-
sorry.
No
Yeah.
problem, no.
Got off
These are
track.
good, no, these are good
Thank you,
questions.
Darren. Thank you.
Mr. Hato, if you have
Thank
more
you.
to
Sure.
present.
Just
It's his fault.
summarize here, kind of wrap things up. So other than those three intersections that we've discussed, all the other intersections are projected to operate at excellent level of service, B or better. Queue lengths within the entire study area, so stacking isn't anticipated to increase by more than 1 or 2 car lengths at any location, including those intersections that are operating so poorly. The study found that ultimately the development has no impact on traffic operations within the study area. No mitigations are warranted and no improvements were recommended. And since the last time I gave this presentation, we have received a clean letter of approval from the municipality's traffic engineering consultant back in November. So this is now considered an approved traffic study from the township.
Okay.
Okay, I will skip that.
Did you find that number that I asked for?
I will look at that while my colleague.
Yeah, we have time. Take your time. We're going to speak about the geotechnical, I believe.
Oh, really?
Is that right? Yep.
This is probably easier to see.
Yeah, I got.
Oh, you bring one? I got both of them.
Sir, once you get all laid out there, if you could just state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name's Chris Samios. I'm with Pennsylvania Soil and Rock. I'm a project engineer, vice president, and I am a licensed PE in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So as part of the geotechnical investigation for this proposed site, back in October, we coordinated and monitored the completion of 23 borings across the property. We will get into one little area over here a little bit later. We had initially wanted to do 27. There were some issues with access. That is a later phase. That's a phase 3 down the road that we are addressing with Scheffler and the developer. Like I said, there were some access issues with wetlands and ravines that we cannot get to those physically until other permits are in place for us to get there. But that will be addressed per the developer and through the site civil. So as I said, we did 24 test borings. We developed numerous cross sections through the site, identified the different subsurface strata, ran normal, or we developed our parameters through laboratory testing and ran numerous stabilities for all the proposed cuts and fill slopes to come up with. The plan you see in front of you was part of the submittal that shows all the required keyways, benches, drainage, all those types of things to make sure that the proposed slopes are constructed properly in a stable manner. You've already seen this drawing as part of the acid mine drainage discussion. This was actually, we developed this. This is kind of gives an overview of the recommended foundations across the whole project. This is based on the results of the subsurface exploration. Basically, the critical elevation on this property is approximately 1110, and you were shown that before. That is that outcrop of the coal. Everything below that's shown in this blue color is below the outcrop of the coal, and basically will fall into pretty standard, typical construction as far as earthwork and foundations and that kind of thing. We've identified the area of concern that has been brought up by a couple of the residents earlier tonight with the shallow deep mining. We've addressed that by showing which lots will require grouting prior to foundation construction. So that is a recommendation that's included in the report.
What type of foundations do you plan to put in? Do you plan to pour your foundations, or do you plan to do cinder block?
I am not the home builder, so basically that's on them. What we provide is getting a buildable pad, and we tell them whether it's a conventional shallow foundation, which is concrete foundation, with typical frost depths, or whether, depending on how far above the mine they are and what remediation process is taking place, whether they have to go to a reinforced grade beam foundation, which is a bulkier foundation. There are, along the yellow here, along the crop, we did encounter an area that we did have strip mine spoil. So across those areas, those will require drill pier foundations, which are deep foundations that go down through all that strip mine material. As part of the AMD.
What do you do? Do you put grout in there?
For deep foundations?
To fill that area when you drill down.
For foundations, it depends on if.
Well, to make the ground stable enough for a foundation.
Yes, we in our report we provided general recommendations for saturation grouting. We've gone through two different response letters with your borough engineer, and I believe the one partial outstanding issue as directly related to geotech is the fact that there was a request for a formal technical spec on grouting. We do not have one. We can develop one. Typically, how we attack those issues is we work directly with the home builder, and we develop once the home builder has specific house footprints, we develop that grout pattern for a house, a specific size house, and then we and coordinate with, there's 2 or 3 local grouting contractors that specialize in mine grouting. We kind of provide it's not more a written spec, but more of a bulletized, here's what is required. And we generally, for our clientele, we monitor and we provide consultant services during the drilling operation and during the grouting operation to make sure that those things are completed.
What's the failure rate on those?
Excuse me?
The failure rate?
Personally, I've been working in the Pittsburgh region since 2004, and I have grouted or monitored or overseen grouting hundreds and hundreds of lots, and I've never gone back to one.
I never say never,
but there's let me preface that because there is no guarantee. This is any remediation done for mining. It is because subsidence is very hard to predict. Okay, any remediation effort recommendations for foundations that are over and above conventional shallow foundations, all those are put in place to help minimize the potential damage should subsidence occur. There's
Who's
no way,
responsible
there's no way
if
we
there
can
is
guarantee
damage?
it.
Who's responsible if there is damage?
Well, in addition to all the recommendations in the report, which are basic industry standards, there's certain levels of up to so much intact rock, okay? That needs to be grouted between different intervals. We go up to grade beam, and it all has to do with potential for the magnitude of damage. In addition to any mine or mining remediation, we strongly recommend anybody, even if we grout the developer grouts a mine and puts a grade beam foundation in, that they should still purchase mine subsidence insurance.
Why would I put a house on that?
Because
There's a risk there, right?
there's always a risk there.
Well, I understand it, yeah, but why would I put a house there?
This is
Why would
something we
I
deal
invest
with
all that money
in this region.
into a house there? We're all undermined here.
Right.
I understand that.
Right.
But I'm trying to rationalize why I would put a house there.
Well, you can take all these steps and do the due diligence, and many of my clients, the developers, do all those things. And in their agreements, they spec, or not spec, but in their sales agreements, it usually has some sort of wordage in there to purchase mine subsidence insurance. In the event that there is still an issue, then they are covered.
So I'm sleeping one night and the foundation collapses into the mine.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I'm actually Joe Bauer. I'm for the municipality, I'm the geotechnical engineering consultant. And as we all know, a good portion of southwest Pennsylvania is deep mined. The further south you go, the more risk you have. And what is typically done by geotechnical engineers, including what Chris did, is they take a look at the risk of mine subsidence and try to mitigate that risk. That is really the best you can do. What he has done here and what this developer is doing is more than has been done on the majority of existing homes in this area that are sitting over mines. They're actually reducing the risk. Most homes don't have that risk reduction. If you want to build a home in southwest Pennsylvania, to find a piece of property that is not deep mined is very, very difficult. You have to build probably next to a river or something like that. So you're stuck with this problem almost anywhere you are in this area of Pennsylvania. So what they've done is they've tried to reduce the risk as much as reasonably possible. But in addition to that risk,
How are they doing that?
they're doing it by 3 methods.
Okay.
And it depends on the depth to the mine, it depends on the rock overburden that Chris has analyzed, and it depends on some analyses that he's performed. The first method is where the risk of mine subsidence is not that great. And what he's recommending is an inverted T structural foundation, which is basically a foundation that can span over sinkholes should they occur. The second level well, actually, there's 2 levels with respect to mine subsidence. The second level is the grouting. That's where the mine is relatively shallow. What they do is saturation grout, and you've heard him say that. And what they typically do, to give you an idea, is there's a method for installing, and I don't want to get into all the details, but a curtain wall around the home. And this curtain wall is installed at the mine level. And within that curtain wall, then they drill holes within the curtain wall, and they
Hold on,
Okay.
I have a question. Okay? It's important because this is my ward where all this is going to happen. Okay? So you're saying that when they do this curtain wall, that they go, I see that there's a 50-foot mine there, deep. Okay, so they go the whole way down 50 feet and put this curtain wall around?
They do it by drilling.
Okay.
And that was the technicality that I was talking about. I didn't know if I wanted to go into all of that, because we'll be talking about that for the next 15 minutes.
That's okay, yeah.
Okay, but they build a curtain wall, and what they do then is within that wall, they drill holes and they pump a high fluidity grout mix, which is basically a cement and water mix with
Like
some
old
other
mud jacking
constituents.
they used to do.
Yes, and they pump it into the ground, and into the mine with the idea of filling the mine up,
Right.
letting it harden. And then you've reduced the risk substantially because you filled, hopefully, most of the voids. You never know if you filled them all. If there's some voids above the mine level, you don't know that you got those, so there's still risk, but you've reduced it substantially. So what they've done is really a conventional methodology for addressing mine subsidence issues. But as Chris said, even with all of this,
There's
no guarantee
Right.
in the end.
Right.
But that's the same as applies to any home that's built over a deep mine.
Well,
So, these people are in the same boat, except there's been measures taken
so
by the developer to try to
my
reduce
question
the
still is,
risk.
why would I build over a deep mine?
Because perhaps you want to live in the area and there's no other property that you can build that's not deep mined.
Well, I don't know if I'm that desperate. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Well, and all that being said, if I just kind of condense that, all that being said, your question and the response, Mr. Hugus, this all falls in line with Monroeville's site plan approval and site plan requirements?
Yes.
Thank you. You want to go on with your presentation? Or did you cover everything that you wanted to cover at this point?
I just wanted to go back, and I will, again, touch on, because my office and Scheffler's office have talked about it. And so getting back to the kind of we're taking a group approach to this acid mine drainage issue again, just so you know, the areas that we've identified are in the same areas that some of the residents have had concerns. So these concerns that some of the residents have brought up, we have identified these potential issues. And again, we're working with Scheffler, and they've gotten in touch with Moody. So as these things progress, the due diligence will be there to take care of it. Again, I believe that we've addressed all but the submittal of a true technical specification through Mr. Ballard. Everything, any other questions he's had,
I just have one more.
additional information.
And you said you identified issues.
Potential.
Potential issues, I'm
Potential,
sorry,
yes.
potential, yes. So do you plan to, when someone purchases that property, purchases that lot, do you plan to give them the potential issues, a list of the potential issues?
Well, if the issue, if it manifests itself, then it's going to be taken care of. I mean, the potential impacts and issues that we're talking from a geotechnical perspective, they will be addressed in the development phase of this.
Right, I
This is
understand.
well
I
before
understand that.
any of the
I
home
understand
building
it. But
occurs.
isn't there somewhere along the line that, I can't remember the correct term, but to give them an idea of what they're getting into with those potential issues?
I think if somebody wants to purchase a lot and it's in one of these areas, during the home building process, and they're going to notice it, it'll be explained to them that, okay, instead of having a typical foundation, we're going to need to drill caissons and do grade beams.
Right.
And at that point, they will be alerted to any.
Right, well, they've already purchased the property.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean,
All I'm asking is they should be given the opportunity to know what the issues are before they purchase the lot.
absolutely.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
And typically the home build, and that's kind of the issue. We don't know. We're working through a developer. We don't have a home builder yet.
I understand,
But-
no.
And most of the
I'm just-
time,
I'm just
these
saying the potential
disclaimers are
buyer
in their
Needs to know what the
home agreements.
potential issues are.
Yeah, that'd be
Like
through
he
the,
said, it's a disclaimer. That's in
Yes.
any home. If I bought
Through
a
the
home
realtor.
Right.
tomorrow that's already built, there's disclaimers. You legally are bound to tell the
To
truth
disclose
and
it.
disclose
Right.
anything to a new,
That's what I was looking for.
yes, I think that's what you're asking,
He's the
Tom.
geotechnical engineer. We're
Yeah,
not asking these
I know
questions.
who he is, but that's what, that was the answer I think he was looking for, sir. I was just trying to
No
finish
problem.
that
Yeah.
conversation up.
Yeah, summarize.
Yep.
Mr.
Okay?
Mr. Sims, do you have more to?
Yep, I think that pretty much wraps up the geotech part.
Thank you, I
Good.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, sir.
Sharon, are you doing okay?
Want a break?
You know, break?
You want a break? We were finished. We were just going to open up for any other
Oh, this
questions. if
this is
we
a
have
perfect time to break then, yes.
Okay.
We're taking a 5-minute recess just to kind of reset the stenography equipment. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
I didn't know if he was going to do
Okay, we're going to come out of recess here. So we had our presentation from Sandy Hill Development. Council, you have 3 items in front of you. One is actually the site plan approval to construct 133 single-family residential homes and associated site amenities. The applicant also requests a waiver for the construction of a cul-de-sac that it will exceed the maximum permissible length of 800 feet. And the property is located at 3892 Logan's Ferry Road, Maple Crest Golf Course, in the R2 one-family residential zoning district. Before I move on to the next one, if someone from, Mr. Hugisman, if you could just tackle this, if you could explain the waiver for the construction of the cul-de-sac that will exceed the maximum permissible length.
Sure. In the subdivision land development ordinance, there's a provision that you have to provide a means of turnaround at 800, a maximum 800-foot length. In one specific area. Ed, could you point that out on the drawing for me, please?
It's this cul-de-sac here.
Show us again, Ed.
This one?
So that specific leg of the road exceeds the 800 foot to the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Is that the third
Phase 3, yes.
Right.
Which was when you were talking about, okay.
Yes.
Now, those I call them mid-block cul-de-sacs, they have their inherent problems to them, although it is a provision that we have in our ordinance. It creates a problem with maintenance, snow removal, parking, and setback requirements for the houses. So, I mean, in this particular case, I don't see there being a problem.
Okay, very good. And then, once again, everybody, we'll have plenty of time for questions. We'll just want to make sure everybody knows where we're at with things. The next item is the subdivision approval. So this is 18-3-sub. Applicant is requesting the preliminary and final subdivision approval of the of tax parcel 1741-R-149 Maple Crest Golf Course, and they propose to subdivide the existing parcel into 133 new single-family residential lots and 8 parcels used for open space and stormwater detention. Location at the same site at Logan's Ferry Road. And then the last item, 18-10-C, applicants requesting the conditional use approval pursuant to section 401-8 of the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended to permit a cut and fill operation totaling approximately 165,000 cubic yards of earth. And the property is located once again at 3892 Logan's Ferry Road. That part is the public hearing item. Typically, we do our best with the public hearings, but we also, it's reasonable that, many other questions come up. Technically, the public hearing is just for the cut and fill operation, but we like to have everybody to have their say and to get their questions answered. So at this point, what I want to do is open up just for council right now. If there's any questions that maybe we haven't gone over so far, any questions the council has for the developer, the applicant. No, and once again, we'll have plenty of time still, but if there's anything right now out of the gate, council? Okay, so we'll move on. So now we will have anyone from the audience, any resident that would like to address council who has any questions for the applicant and for council. You just state your name for the record. I know you already signed in earlier.
Hello, my name is Tom Henningsen. I'm a resident of Monroeville. The issue I would like to bring up here to you tonight is Maple Crest Lane. And the developer has allowed me to use this map here. Maple Crest Lane is currently a road that runs 1,500 feet from Logan's Ferry Road down this way, down to a turnaround at the end of the road. And by the way, Logan's Ferry Road is a cul-de-sac. A cul-de-sac is a road that only has one entrance. The question is, what happens to that road with this development? Maple Crest Lane shows up in a county map for 1870. It has been around for 150 years. And during all that time, well, as long as any road in Monroeville has had municipal services, this road has been serviced by the municipality. there's a fire hydrant located about here, and that is a municipal fire hydrant. By that I mean that the fire hydrants in Monroeville are either paid for by the private landowners, the maintenance of them, or by the municipality. This is a municipal fire hydrant. The question, there's a long-term discussion about whether this is a private road or a public road. And that becomes an important issue right now. I would like to enter into the record a brief that was written by my attorney back in 2006. In that brief, he explains why this road is a municipal road. And his comments are based on the services that Monroeville has provided over the years, such as snow removal and garbage collection, which goes all the way back to the end of the road. The issue that has come up with the developer is a release of the right-of-way. All of the property owners that live back here have a right-of-way that goes right through this. And it's my position that because it's a municipal road, it's up to the municipality to decide what changes should be made to this road. In other words, I think the plan that is before you is reasonable. It says we are going to take out this section of the road and reconnect the existing residents into the current system. But the question is, how do you do it? And I believe it's up to the municipality to come to an agreement with the developer on how this is done. And so for that reason, my family is not in a position to sign an agreement with the developer. In other words, I'm not in any way opposed to what's happening here, but it's the way you do it. And one of the reasons I'm saying this is there has been discussions about the remaining road. Who owns it? How is it maintained? How is it serviced? And the closest I have been able to get to this is, well, nothing will change. Whatever had happened in the past will continue to change. But recognize that Maplecrest Lane has kind of been operating in the twilight. Monroeville has said, well, it's a private road, but on the other hand, it has also provided services on that road. And as I say, this brief from my attorney was introduced in 2006. The reason it was written was because the planning director at the time says, oh, I didn't know we were servicing a private road. I'm going to talk to the manager about having that terminated. So then that brief was written and entered into the record. And for the years that followed, no changes took place. We had very good services when Mr. Duncan was in charge. And lately, the services has not been so good. But that's where we are, and that's the issue I would like to put on the record.
Okay. Looking at the most recent site plan, on December the 23rd, I, with the permission of staff, went through all the reports that was available at the time and also the comments by the consultants. And one of the things I noticed on that was that the remaining part, well, let me put up a different map if I can. And Tom, before you do, I know it's not your job, if you could go back to that map real quick and just point out for everybody that's looking at it. So Logan's Ferry Road, if you could just point that out real quick.
Logan's Ferry Road is here.
So the entrance then to Maplecrest Lane?
Is right here.
Now, where is the existing clubhouse for the golf course, roughly?
It's not shown on the drawings here, but it would be right between these two houses are shown here.
That's where the existing is. Okay.
So what we currently have is you come off Logan's Ferry Road, you drive down this road, and as you get down about 300 feet, you have the entrance into the clubhouse. And there's another angle to this. The first 340 feet of the road is paved and by the county listed as a public road. Now, in talking to the staff, they're saying, no, this is not a public road. But you have the problem now is that if this is not a public road, what is it? It's about a quarter to a third of an acre that doesn't have Allegheny County parcel number. You may know that when it used to be in the past that building lots would go to the center of the road. And in recent years, when the plan came up from approval, the municipality has been pulling it back so that the private part no longer goes to the center of the road. And that appears to be what has happened here. So in other words, you have a section of land here which is not owned by the adjoining property owners.
Mr. Hugus, that portion that Mr. Henningsen just pointed out, is the developer making any improvements to that small section of roadway, roughly as it stands now from Logan's Ferry to roughly where the clubhouse is for the golf course?
No, excuse me, no.
No, they're leaving that part as is?
Correct.
Okay, because to his point, the new owner doesn't own that
Correct.
part of the road. Okay.
So we go past the clubhouse, and at that point, it turns into a gravel road that probably has, in this area, about a 12-foot wide area. And it widens a little bit down here. Then it comes down to the end of the road down here. And that's the Check subdivision, which was approved in 2006. Now, when that was done, the municipality insisted that a 50-foot road, if we can focus in on this map here.
Give us 1 second there, Mr. Henningsen.
Can we go further? Yeah, I think that's good. That's good. Down here, you have an 80-foot turnaround. You have a 50-foot right-of-way going into it. But then, when they approved the subdivision in here, they allowed this right-of-way to go down, so it becomes 20 feet as we get down here. In other words, that's all the land that was allowed within, that was available within it. The idea behind it was that if Monroeville were ever to develop this as a municipal road, you had the beginning of the 50 feet here, and then with the new development, the rest of the road could be expanded to be 50 feet all the way through. And that's actually the discussion that has been going on with the developer. And it was my understanding that that's what we were doing, but the current maps do not quite show that. The current map shows that the section of Maplecrest Lane that will come out here is the loop road as it was referred to. What will now happen is that a 50-foot right-of-way would come off and go through the development. And then in this area, it narrows down to 40 feet, only to expand again to be 50 feet, about 150 feet down. Now, it's my understanding from the earlier discussion we had that actually this was going to be moved over, so it would be 50 feet all the way. I'm not arguing that the road should be 50 feet wide. I think 40 feet is plenty. But the municipality in the past has insisted that if it's going to be a municipal road, it has to have a 50-foot right-of-way. So I'm just for the record pointing out that we have 50 feet most of the way it's planned, except in this area here. And this is our front yard for a building that's locating here. And there isn't the additional 10 feet available without making that yard non-conforming.
Mr. Henningsen, are you saying that developers doing this to the road? They doing improvements to the road?
What they are doing is they are taking the, what you currently have is 20-foot.
Hold 1 second here. Mr. Habal, if you could zoom out on the map, and then Mr. Henningsen's going to point some things out on the original map we had. So Tom, sorry, just
There we go.
go ahead, yeah, if you want. I just want to make sure that was on the camera as you were pointing.
Okay. What we currently have is a 20-foot right-of-way that runs down through here. The developer is proposing to take the section that is within their the first part, that's about 125 feet here. They're proposing to expand the right-of-way within that area. And then they're proposing to pave a section of it, as you see here. Probably the way it's looking here gets to be about 100 feet wide. And then it would go into whatever the existing road is down that way.
So just to make sure everyone's following, or at least I'm following. So that portion that you're discussing, Mr. Hugas, so the developer owns that property. They purchased that property, and what they're doing is they're going to improve that section, and they're going to allow access to those homes where Mr. Henningsen's talking about and the other homes back there. Is that, am I
The
following?
developer is improving the section of property that they have control of.
That they own, that
That
they have
they own.
control of.
Correct.
Okay.
They cannot move outside those limits without permission.
And providing.
Come up to the microphone,
additional-
sir, real quick.
Yeah,
If you could
let's
sta-
hear from the developer.
Maybe you could state your name for the record real quick.
Gary Scheffler,
Gary,
Scheffler and Company, and we're also dedicating additional property that could be part of a future public roadway along this stretch. We're improving this section, installing drainage, fixing utilities, adjusting utilities, and then applying additional acreage or property that could be used for future right-of-way.
So to Mr. Henningsen's point, as far as that extra 10 feet potentially
Well,
could be,
we've centered it on that 20-foot right-of-way, which in turn kind of offsets it into him, that extra.
How does that affect where he lives? How does that affect where Tom lives? That improvement that you're saying?
Well, I think it improves the situation for Maple Crest Lane,
Well,
personally.
yeah, but Tom's considering what's going on with his place. In the
Well, I'm
beginning,
improving we are improving a gravel road to full township standard spec.
in the part
From-
that you own.
In the
from
part
where,
that we,
from where, Mr. Scheffler?
from the loop road,
Where's Tom live right now?
right here.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
And, you know, we looked at a spot to stop drainage and stop the improvements and tie the road back in. Could that be plus or minus a few feet, short?
Yeah.
But we are improving it to full cartway, curbs, storm drainage.
Right. So what's your issue, Tom? They're
Well,
saying that they're going to approve it.
Mr. Scheffler,
I'll stay here.
when you and I talked about it earlier, we were talking about moving this over. Is that a mistake that it's showing like this?
Yeah, in the end.
We can't-
Because
Tom,
you
can
are
you
move
50
your
feet
drawing?
down
Tom,
here.
you gotta
Gentlemen,
point to the green drawing.
yeah, we can't see that.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
can't see that.
We had discussions about trying to realign, and jog this road to work around Mr. Henningsen's property entirely with a future improvement. But it turned out for us that it made more sense to not jog it as far and line it up with the right-of-way that was there. In any configuration, can we get entirely off? He wanted us to be entirely off of his frontage with a 50-foot right-of-way. We couldn't accommodate that,
Right.
is the question.
Too expensive.
That's why there's the 40 in the one spot.
Yes, we're
Okay.
over as far as we feel that
You
we
can
can
do.
go
Gotcha.
Right.
without a reverse curve situation that
Right.
doesn't make sense.
I
And
understand.
this entire topic, and Mr. Ratch, maybe you could help me out with this, this really doesn't fall into what council's going to be considering on Tuesday, because we're talking about a site plan development, and Mr. Henningsen's talking about a separate issue that's, as far as bringing up Maple Crest Lane to municipal standards. They're two separate.
Well, I think there's two pieces of this, the way I'm hearing it. The first part is the access after the development is put in, and what happens to back where Mr. Henningsen lives and all the people back there, how do they still get access? And I think I've heard Mr. Henningsen say that in his mind, that's, it's okay. They're going to get access to the part of the development that's there via that road that's sort of, for lack of a better term, I'll call it like a horseshoe. It's really wider, but, so that is one issue. The second issue is, and it's an ongoing issue that council's had for many years with Mr. Henningsen, and it is the status of Maple Crest Lane.
That's the key.
And that's a valid argument, but it's not an argument related to the developers,
Right.
in my judgment, related to the developer's development and whether it stands or falls. That's a separate issue, and it's valid. Mr. Henningsen can certainly bring it up, but it's not something that we can compel the developer to improve that road. He doesn't own the rights to it. His plan does not include that piece of Maple Crest Lane.
And we concur his rights extend from his property to Logan's Ferry, and his sign-off is required ultimately in the end for modifications to his surface rights.
And that will not be,
So that's the discussion that's kind of been ongoing with us.
right, yeah, we will not sign off on that for a number of reasons.
But at that
But-
point, it's not your responsibility, Mr. Scheffler.
Well, it's not really, it's a land issue between a developer and a landowner. It's not a Monroeville issue.
It's a neighbor issue.
It's a neighbor issue.
It's more of a Monroeville issue.
Let me also say that Mr. Henningsen said, and I agree with him, he said that the municipality has to be satisfied about what's done on the front half, where the horseshoe is and so forth. If the municipality approves this plan as presented, essentially the municipality is saying, yeah, we are okay with that. So you're going to indicate whether you're okay with the front end of it by virtue of whether or not council approves the plan as it's proposed. And again, the issues that he has in the back they're separate issues. I'm not saying they're not valid issues, but they're not related to your decision on the rest of the proposed development.
But we are affected if you ultimately make a decision on the status of the private lane. So we are definitely affected by that.
Right.
But that's not
That-
before us.
Exactly,
That-
Mr. Poach, yeah, that's not in front of us. We won't be taking any action on that because it's not on our
Right.
agenda to vote on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Understood.
Mr. Henningsen, do you have anything else you would like to add about the project?
Well, I think the 40-foot is wide enough for any kind. You just approved an apartment building, the Fox plan on a 33-foot right away. So it is a funny shape, but it is wide enough for. But I am arguing that this is a municipal road, and I think, and also that the way you should be dealing with it is to formally accept this as a municipal road. At that point, the municipality will be able to decide what changes needed to be made here. Because I've been saying here, there's no way we are going to sign off on this, giving up this right-of-way. In other words, we can keep Maple Crest Lane where it is. And when I say municipal road, I'm really not talking about upgrading it to municipal standards. That has been the issue. But keep in mind, this is a road that's over 100 years old. And you have a number of old roads that fall into that category, like Whitehead Lane, as an example, is 20 feet wide. So that's, I guess, what we got there.
If the municipality down the road chooses to make that a municipal road, how's that going to affect Mr. Scheffler's project down the road? Because at some point, where does Tom's Road finish or end?
Well, it sounds as if that the developer had a little bit of a setback already planned. Is that how I understood you? As far as on that back end to accommodate any kind of future development? Or, future roadway improvement?
Yes, we've left buffer, I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah, you have to-
Sorry about that.
No problem.
We've left buffer for the lots, and we've also reserved the, we'll call it open space or public road, future public road right-of-way, out that way,
Yeah.
if improvements are going to be
Now, do you
made,
have a-
whether it's increased to a.
So the potential is there that
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
council
but,
were
but
to-
how, okay, we need to look into finding a way to, doing a research on the cost of providing a public road for,
And that's something that we could bring up. We would not be able to do that.
no,
you know,
right.
between now and
This
Tuesday.
is a long-term thing. Obviously, this has been going on for a long time, but, now, Mr. Scheffler, at the far end of that road, where Skooks live and that, do they have access or not? Do
Their
they have
access stays-
Can they exit their property and go into your property and I, no? Okay, they have to use Maple Lane?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
You see, part of the issue in the discussion here has been, at least it was my understanding with talking to staff from Mr. Scheffler, that while the developer is providing essentially 50-foot right-of-way down here, it would not be accessible to the people that live back here. They would still be stuck with their 20-foot right-of-way until Monroeville decides to upgrade the road. That's why I'm saying there's three issues here. Who owns the land within that 50 feet? How is it maintained and how is it serviced? If you look at the section of land here, the biggest one is part of Sandy Hill. My family owns a small part, and then Yukachek owns the remaining part. So you have three property owners within that road section.
Well, that's a subject for another day.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need to,
That's something we need to look
This
into.
isn't going
Yeah.
to affect your development.
Yeah.
Whatever happens with Maple.
yeah. This is a separate issue, Tom, and I'm sorry.
It's a separate
that,
issue. I mean,
Yes.
I have exhibits to show what it would look like if we can't come to agreement with
Right.
Mr. Henningsen. It's
Well,
a
what-
minor, but
Would that prevent you from going through with your project?
a land dispute issue with Mr. Henningsen
Yeah.
is what it would turn out to be. I mean, I'm hoping we could come to some agreement at some point. But again, that's not a Monroeville issue, that's a,
Okay, I'm not sure I understand what the issue is. What do you,
How about this? Let me, maybe.
Yeah,
if you
go
could
ahead.
maybe
Yeah.
No, maybe if you could explain what you're asking Mr. Henningsen to sign
yeah,
off.
what you're asking.
And- and
Get
if-
that issue off the table.
Yeah, at some point, you have to become reasonable at this point.
Mr. Henningsen has a described, I'm sorry, is that on there?
Yep.
Do you see the white dashed lines?
Yeah.
Mr. Henningsen's deed, his surveys have a described 20-foot right-of-way that goes across land that Sandy Hill is purchasing. In order to affect that right-of-way, we need his sign-off. We are technically affecting that right-of-way. Now, this proposal, which was one of our proposals, leaves that in place and crosses it with, future public road, municipality road. We didn't feel this was a better option, so we've made the proposal to Monroeville. However, Mr. Henningsen doesn't see that that is his best option. For some reason, I don't think he's
Not
wants
happy.
to have an agreement, happy with signing an agreement with us versus this option.
Well, I guess what I'm really asking is Monroeville to deal with this long-term issue here. And I'm not asking you to update it to 26-foot pavement, and so I'm perfectly happy with a gravel road. We just need to know with certainty that this road is going to continue to be serviced the way it has been. Because when it's been talked about, it has been talked about as a private road. And by state law, Monroeville cannot service private roads.
But this doesn't have anything to do with their development. Am I missing something?
We do need his sign-off ultimately
but
to
not
build the
tonight.
road.
But
We
not
would
tonight.
like to- Not tonight.
Not-
Not
That's
tonight.
what I'm
Correct.
understanding. And we've been on this
Correct.
for like a half an hour.
Because your current plan, you've already addressed this issue.
I feel it's a good proposal to
Yeah.
Monroeville
Right.
and to Mr.
Yeah.
Henningsen.
But it's
Can I
not
ask-
for
can I
tonight.
ask-
We
It's
stand
not
by
for
that
tonight.
plan.
Can I ask a question? It sounds to me, unless I'm missing something, I'm misused. Sounds to me like what we're asking here for is to make sure the road is taken care of, garbage is picked up. And is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
That it's been done by Mr. Duncan's crew back in the day? And now,
Mike's been
I'm
doing
just
it.
trying to say, it's what it sounds like. Now Mike Adams' crew's not doing his due diligence as quickly or as much.
But they put.
Is that what I'm missing? No,
stones
let
down
me
and everything.
finish. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, they take care of that road.
You have two issues.
Our guys take care of that road.
Well, the
I'm
service.
just asking. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, one
There
second.
has-
Mr. Hughes, if you could answer Mr.
There has
What is
been
the
some
question?
past maintenance done on the road. It's not done on a consistent basis.
Right.
There's been some snow removal done on the road, but it does not happen on a consistent basis. The refuse collection is a different item. We have a standalone ordinance that we have to pick up refuse from single-family homes.
I understand.
Whether it's on private, public, county, state
So they
roads.
picked up.
So they still pick up the refuse on those roads. Now, if you want to stop it, then they'd have to take their refuse out to Logan's Ferry Road.
I understand.
And
Well, we don't want
pick it
that
up
to
there.
happen, but yeah, I understand.
No,
Sounds like
this-
that's the issue more than anything.
Yeah, it is.
It's our issue, not theirs.
So if we could,
That's
I mean, we've established that this has,
I'm just trying to,
although it is a
Fix the
valid,
problem.
it is a valid point that you're bringing up, it does not impact what
His development.
council is going to be considering on Tuesday.
Correct.
Tom, you have to think about this long and hard, and you have to give them whatever they're asking for so that we can move forward to help you too.
It's not going to happen. Not until Monroeville we get this nailed down. See, part of the conversation with Scheffler has been that while they're expanding their right-of-way in here, it's not usable to the residents. And that comes back to who's going
It
to
is
own.
usable to the residents of the homes you're building, right?
Well,
And they're
what
paying
he-
an
what he's
HOA
saying-
fee.
I'm sorry.
Take-
What he's saying is, yes, we are dedicating this land over here, but these folks can't utilize it until there are upgrades to it
Okay.
by Monroeville. We propose no upgrades to it.
So Monroeville needs to, what do we need to do specifically?
I think you need to.
I'm asking Mr. Scheffler.
Well, our proposal, I think, was fair in what we were proposing to do to Maple Crest Lane and provide the additional right-of-way. We don't propose any further improvements to Maple Crest Lane, no additional full-depth reclamation, widening, storm drainage, or anything.
That should be up to us.
That was, our position.
Okay, yeah, and just so if I could I know we're maybe belaboring this a little bit, but.
No.
So, Mr. Habal, if you could show that map one more time. So right now, that right there, the bottom one, that would be as if Mr. Henningsen does not sign off on anything.
That is correct.
That would be this one.
That's this one.
Okay, so let's just show everybody the difference between the two.
You essentially are looking at two options.
Yes.
Right.
You're either going to create a four-way intersection or a plus intersection, or you're going to create a T intersection. The one that Mr. Scheffler has there right now is a plus intersection,
Yes.
maintaining the private roadway through the new road.
Where's that
The-
gonna be
the-
for?
Yeah, so
the
let's,
other op-
because so we could maybe just, so everybody's on the same page, if you could maybe outline, right now, if by chance,
If
you
Mr.
and the private property owner could not come to an agreement.
Yes, at some
It'll still
future
go
date.
on anyway?
At some
Is that what
future
I'm
date,
understanding?
if we cannot come
I'll
to
still go
agreement,
through.
we have to come back to Monroeville with an alternate plan. This would be the plan, that we can't get an agreement with the neighbors. This right-of-way would stay intact. We basically adjust our street grades, cross it at grade.
Oh, I see, okay.
All of the utilities, sanitary, storm, water, we have the right to cross that right-of-way underground with our utilities. There's no stormwater management changes, there's really no changes, so all it did was leave intact a portion of the lane that I think becomes useless, right here. It would be a road that no one would travel and be unmaintained, because I'm sure these residents would pick one way or another out the future road, and then this would be an area that we would not improve. So that's kind of an
Mr.
alternate.
Scheffler, now show the other one. Show the difference.
The other proposal in front of you for vote is this section of lane is obviously removed. We propose to improve to township municipal standards.
Joe, can you zoom in on it?
I was going to ask him to zoom in.
And then slide the map to,
Slide the map.
nope.
No, the other way.
There you are.
There you go.
And then Joe, zoom in a little more for us, please. That's probably good. And then actually, can you move over just a little more to the left?
So
That way we can see where Logan's Ferry Road is.
So we propose to install a three-way intersection with a stop sign. Propose to fully widen and improve this section of the road with drainage at the low point of that area. And the final tie-in, like I said, could be within a few feet or whatever we show here, but that's the proposal in front of staff at Monroeville today.
So that's an upgrade.
That is,
And staff is approving,
requires,
you're approving.
that requires the landowners to permit the developer to modify the surface of that right-of-way.
He's the only one that won't agree.
Mr. Scheffler, you're saying you have to get an agreement from Mr. Henningsen.
Correct.
But that private road is owned by others more than just Mr. Henderson.
Yeah, there's others that, you know.
Are
that
they
Kurt-
in agreement with this?
Yeah, the Beatties, on behalf of the development,
Yes.
have spoken to other neighbors, and they
So
were
the
in
other
agreement.
neighbors on the private road have agreed to sign off?
Yeah.
It's just Mr. Henningsen?
That is my understanding through Ralph Beatty. And again, it was a process with us. We have to get to a point where we have approval to do what we want to do before we can get final agreements.
Makes sense.
Which is
So
what
now
we got.
I've approached Mr. Henningsen several times via email, and he's adamantly stated his position, which I understand.
And so, Mr. Ratcher, and with all due respect, Mr. Henningsen, to maybe that point that we just brought up, is it a unanimous, has to be unanimously signed off by the owners on the private road?
The right-of-way, yes, to maintain, well, if it's not signed off, then they have to go to that other plan where that 20-foot right-of-way is through there, yeah.
But if there was 100 residents back there, all 100 would have to sign off on that?
If they had a defined,
If they had an interest in it.
if they had a defined right-of-way, if you just have in your deed that you have rights to cross, say the Beatty property, then I could modify that. But he has a described right-of-way. It's this alignment that I have right to. So I don't know if all of the neighbors have that, but they've already expressed the willingness to work with us in the end.
Right.
But,
Gary, you're gonna lose one lot if you have to do it.
we are proposing not to. The other sketch doesn't show it as a 50-foot right-of-way. We have 4 units on this side on the 50-foot right-of-way option, so we leave 50 foot here, but we're considering this a side yard and a side yard on these 2 lots, so we don't end up losing a lot.
Oh, okay, I was thinking on the eastern side there, but.
Yeah, we had a
okay.
unit here,
Right, yeah, right.
and
that's-
then
Yeah,
we had considered front yard setbacks along that public road access that we provided, so which pushed them back. So if we just leave this intact, provided as open space, we considered it a side yard, we were able to not lose a lot,
oh, okay, I
which was the
okay, I
ultimate
see.
goal.
I see.
Can we
All right,
address
so,
that?
yes, so I think there is one at, so once again, council, this is a private property landowner dispute or issue. Monroeville does not own that property there, so we can't really sign off on that or have any kind of impact there. Monroeville on Tuesday, the 8th, will be considering the items, the site plan approval, the cut and fill operation, and the subdivision. Only those 3 things. This is a separate issue that Monroeville is not to consider at this point. I mean, are they to consider it down the road? I mean, that's potential. That's a valid point, as to Mr. Ratcher's point, as we said earlier with Mr. Henningsen. But it's for, if you have a dispute with the new property owner, that's for you two to hash out. Is there anything else you want to add outside of this road dispute? Is there anything else about the site plan that you have any questions?
Yes, please, I do. But just to finish this one up.
Well, we're done with that part. We
Well, but
all know it
there
very
is a
well.
very simple solution to this problem, which is to
Bring
Monroeville
up to another time.
accepting this.
And we can bring that up at another time, but if there's anything else for the actual site plan,
Yes.
cut and fill operation, or the subdivision, those are the 3 specific items that I'll leave you have the floor right now if you have any questions about those.
Right. The other issue I have is environmental. There's a very large coal mine located under this property, and it's called Oak Hill Number 5. And the northern part of that mine extends in under Maple Crest Lane. And then if we can take a look at this map here. This is Logan's Ferry Road here. This is Maple Crest Lane. And you can see the mine works located under this area here. This map is dated 1899. And if you look at it today, there's very substantial mine seepage from that mine. On December the 23rd, with the help of the staff, I went carefully through all the reports and all the comments that have been filed on this, and nowhere in there do I find a discussion of the mine water.
They just discussed it tonight.
We heard all
That
about
is
it.
after it was not part of the
Well, isn't that
This is part of the record now,
But
today.
they're
It's part of
addressing
the
it,
record
Tom.
now, but it was not part of the,
Well, it was never presented to council, because that's what tonight's
Right,
about.
you're talking about the planning commission.
right, no, I'm talking about what was in the record.
On tonight in the record is they're addressing the mine society, or, yeah,
Well, but let me show you,
Yes.
mine water, drainage.
let me show you what we're talking about, if we can go in on this map here. Here, Old Frankstown Road is up here, Logan's Ferry Road is down here. Here is the coal mine that I was just showing you before. There, the applicants are correctly identifying two wetlands located here. They're calling them SP16 and SP17. But what the records does not show, that what you have there is mine water, and very substantial quantities of mine water. There is, from the coal mine, a 6-inch mine drain that's discharging water directly into this area and then onto our property. See, you haven't, in the discussion, you haven't heard, in the records, you haven't seen anything on this.
Well, if I
So-
could, real quick, so if Mr. Ferry, if it's the hydrology, or if it is Mr. Samos with the mine, the geotechnical, or from our staff, is there anyone that can address this issue that Mr. Henningson's bringing
I
up?
thought they just addressed the issue on mine water.
I thought they did too.
I felt we have. I think it's been a process of going through, number one, the geotechnical analysis that identified the mining, subsurface. It's a process.
And Mr. Hugus, has there been anything from your department standpoint? Have they satisfied, has the developer satisfied everything along these lines?
I will have to defer to Mr. Ballard. He did the review.
Okay.
And Mr. Ballard has made recommendations, and so has Mr. Samios, about bringing in the environmental consultants, which we have. Unfortunately, no one was available tonight to speak directly to you, but
Which I think he told us, didn't you tell us that person was not available this evening? Would they be here on
Yes.
Tuesday?
Mr. Ballard,
they can be.
That, I think
Yeah.
would that maybe help solve this issue right now, if the person could be here on Tuesday?
well, has everything been satisfied from,
Well, I was gonna say,
Our
Mr.
standpoint?
Bauer, can you answer that?
Yeah, the acid mine drainage, AMD, was discussed. And it was in between Paul and myself, and it was recommended that the design team bring on board a consultant, which they have done, Moody and Associates, that is an expert in such geohydraulic drainage and environmental impact. So they have proceeded to that level. Moody is on board. They've discussed some of the measures that they plan on taking. So yes, they have addressed it.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
The most recent report that I saw on December the 23rd has a report in there that's dated November 19, 2018. And reading from that, it says in bold letters, if seepage is encountered at or within close proximity of the Pittsburgh coal seam, it will need to be evaluated to determine the need for potential acid mine drainage treatment. My point
But you
is
said that.
that this report is saying if you see it, well, if you go into that area, you don't have to put a shovel in the ground to find out that you're going to need extensive
But they're
mine.
saying they will take care of that. They've already stated that fact.
I'm just putting on the record that it's not.
Yeah,
I
but
think-
you're
I think
reading
that
a
they
record
already said
older
that.
than.
The one we
Records-
saw
yeah,
earlier.
Today's the official.
Tonight
You're
is
losing
a new official
You're losing your
record.
audience, Tom.
Well,
It's time
Thank
to pack up.
Yeah, thank you for all the information.
okay, I have some records here I would like to put into the,
You want to just give those to?
Anything you want to hand in
Hand in?
yeah.
to me,
Okay.
and I will
Yeah.
take that.
The first one here discusses the right-of-way easements, and it contains there
That doesn't have nothing to do with tonight.
Yeah, and once
the
again, it goes
brief-
back to the,
the brief from our attorney concerning the road. The next one here has to do with just putting on the record the fact that we don't have a 50-foot right-of-way through
Doesn't
this.
have to do with tonight.
And there's one additional item here, and that has to do with the names of the road. If you look at the map that's in front of you, you'll find that this section of Maplecrest Lane has 3 different names. It's called Maplecrest Lane, it's called Maplecrest Drive, and it's called Maple Drive. In addition to that, this one up here is called Maplecrest Drive. I'm suggesting we need names here that cannot be confused. Maplecrest Drive and Maplecrest Lane are too close together. If you go to the county website and enter, you can only enter Maplecrest Drive, and Lane does not enter. So we can't have a Maplecrest Lane and a Maplecrest Drive.
Tom,
Okay,
I'm
thank
not
you.
trying to be mean, but this
This
really
has
has
nothing to do
nothing
with
to do
this.
with their project.
I'm just
they're
saying-
presenting.
That's on the next page. Let's get this first page.
It's on the
over.
map.
And the next, sit on another meeting.
Yes, that's, thank you.
But if you would like to hand in that.
Yeah, hand
documents
it
you
in,
have,
Tom. I mean, we can
but
take
but we will notate in the record that these are separate issues from this development, but we'll make sure that we have those items that you're handing in.
Yes.
And does council have any questions for
Go ahead.
the developer and their team?
No, sir.
Or to our engineering department and our team?
No, sir.
And
No, sir.
if you have any comments or anything else you would like to,
Well, is there then a presentation that we need to bring Moody and others to next week? Or are we okay with where we are
I would have them available,
I think,
please.
at the meeting?
Yes, please.
Briefly, if.
and
Yes.
as
Understood.
long as, you know,
We are not doing another presentation to this extent at the next?
No,
Okay.
correct.
you are not.
No.
This is, yeah, this is it, and then
Thumbs
our
up on
staff,
that.
our
There
staff
you go.
understands
Okay,
where
you're
we're at.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
You
good.
didn't have fun
Thank
with
you.
us.
Yeah.
the planning committee
Recommended
voted on it, they approved it.
Yes.
We're
Our
good.
engineers are approving it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it'll be considered at the Tuesday, January 8th meeting, but once again, to echo what Mr. Wilson just said, our planning commission did recommend approval of the 3 items, which are the cut and fill operation, the subdivision, and also the site plan approval of this development. So we will consider this on Tuesday.
Next.
Moving over to our motions,
Mayor.
Mr. Little.
Mayor, real quick.
Yes.
I was not intending on having these gentlemen come on Tuesday unless you want them here.
No, don't worry about it.
No, so council, just make sure council, everybody heard that. The rest of
No, you
the
don't.
engineers, does anybody have any questions for them?
We do not, sir.
No,
No.
we're good.
They won't be here on Tuesday.
All 3 will be here.
We'll be fine.
No,
We'll be fine.
none of
gentlemen.
4,
Good.
no. I'm
Thank you for
good.
your help
Thanks,
tonight.
Paulie.
Thank you.
Motions, move over to motions, Mr. Little. please,
Yeah, the
we have one
first motion we have is a motion to place a
Yeah.
half-page advertisement in the amount of $90 in the program for the Gateway High School musical, Once on This Island.
I'm
Question
wondering why
on
we
that?
didn't do a full page.
Good.
That's the whole, what'd you say, Tom? A whole page?
I was just wondering why we didn't do a full page.
Pretty soon it's gonna be the book.
It's up to the pleasure of council.
And Mr. Little, I'm sorry, and Tom, hold that thought.
Yeah.
I got to close the public hearing.
Oh.
portion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
We
apologize.
got a little sidetracked, but the public hearing is closed for the cut and fill operation for Sandy Hill Development. Thank you. And then, I'm sorry, Mr. Little, go on with the motion.
I apologize, Mayor.
No, it's my fault.
It's, it's at the pleasure of council.
Is it a full page or a half a page, council?
I think we have to go to a whole.
Okay, that's a
It's
full page.
always a full
I agree.
page.
Full
Otherwise,
page.
Mr. Wilson will be
Change to
very
a full
happy.
page.
You like spending money, Tom. We'll go with you.
Thank you.
There is a motion that I will have that is not on tonight's agenda, is a motion for the 2019 agreement with MS Consultants, which I just received today. I've gone through it. There's a 2% increase in the rates, and that will be at your, up on the dais here, in your weekend packet tomorrow. Okay, it's the same thing as last year's.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So now we have our
A lot of sold that.
resolutions. We have 10 resolutions. These all refer to the authorizing the demolition of slums and blight at various locations. Mr. Ratcher, you just explain the hearing we had prior to tonight's meeting to explain what happened?
Yes, under the Uniform Construction Code, in order for the municipality to be able to declare a structure unsafe and thereby eligible for demolition, the property owner's rights have to be protected by way of what's called a show cause hearing, which essentially means show us why the municipality should not declare this a blighted property and have it torn down. So the purpose of those 10 individual hearings, we had them all at once tonight, was to listen to testimony, and 3 of the properties, we did hear from the property owners relative to their reasons why they believe these properties should not be declared unsafe and blighted. And then there were 7 properties where nobody showed, so obviously, nobody showed any cause in those cases that could even be evaluated by council. So these resolutions are just then for council to individually make decisions on whether or not these properties, all 10 of them, should be put on the demolition list or not.
And it's a yes or no, or there could be conditions.
Correct. Correct. You could, if you wanted to, you could say if nothing happens within a certain period of time, or you could say, no, they should be immediately declared to be unsafe and blighted.
Very good, thank you.
And
then
Mayor, there's a second part to that, if I can interject.
Mr. Hugus, please.
We applied for grant money for the demolitions. These resolutions had to be submitted with the grant to be considered.
That's interesting, yeah.
So I'm sorry, so you did not apply yet?
We did.
He did, yeah.
But these have to be,
That has to be part of it.
have to be part of the application.
And we'll vote on this on
We
Tuesday.
need to be acted upon.
Yes, and then just very briefly, these properties are 758 Cottonwood Drive, 104 Elmwood Street, 306 Interlaken Drive, thank you, 604 Lincoln Avenue, 1594 Lynn Avenue, 1600 Lynn Avenue, 1610 Lynn Avenue, 4334 Northern Pike, 4336 Northern Pike, and 4654 Old William Penn Highway. So this will all be considered, as Mr. Ratcher just described, on the Tuesday, January 8th meeting.
Yes.
Now we have our ordinances. We have 3 this evening. Mr. Ratcher, please.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville establishing a Board of Appeals for the Pollution Control and Flood Reduction Program, which shall hear and decide appeals made by property owners from decisions of the municipal manager. And this is to actually constitute the board that will hear these appeals as a result of the ordinance that we previously adopted relative to stormwater and MS4.
Questions, council?
No question.
Next item, Mr. Ratcher.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville repealing ordinance number 2541 and adopting new comprehensive stormwater management provisions for the Municipality of Monroeville pursuant to the Stormwater Management Act, 32 PS, Section 680.1. And this is an update of our stormwater ordinances, is it not, Mr. Hugus?
Allegheny County adopted new stormwater management ordinance regulations, and they're requiring every community in Allegheny County to either adopt their regulations in whole or update their current regulations. What we're doing is taking their regulations, inserting into ours. Some of ours are being kept because they're more stringent than the counties.
Very good. Questions?
Thank you.
Council?
No.
Mr. Ratcher.
Final ordinance is an ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville amending ordinance number 848, regulating parking on Duke Lane and Lolly Drive. These are both streets in Turnpike Gardens, which is in Mr. John's ward.
Any questions?
Nope.
Council?
Nope.
Okay, and while we're at it, we're going to move over to our reports of our municipal staff. Mr. Ratcher, you have the floor if you have any comments.
None.
Thank you. Mr. Little.
Yeah, I have one comment under there is we will have, as we normally do, 2 or 3 times a year, disposal of household hazardous and electronic equipment on February the 9th at the Public Works Building. It is advantageous to register. This is on our website. Please visit our website and you can register. It's on Saturday, February the 9th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And also, I have a comment. I got a direction from Mrs. Greasock, and she told me to wish her husband a happy birthday this Sunday. He'll be 44.
Well, you
Hey, you're
even
catching
the
up.
age.
Actually, I will be 43, so your
Doctor-
notes are wrong.
Dr.
Well,
Greasock,
she told me 44.
I can't remember back that far.
Thank you.
A lot of Capricorns.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mr. Hugus,
No, sir.
you don't want to wish me happy birthday?
Happy birthday.
All right, thank you.
What's the real number?
It is 43, yes.
Are you sure?
Positive, absolutely.
I got socks older than you.
I gotta check my phone. on
No
this.
problem. Always go lower. Mr.
Always
Little.
go lower.
Ms. Rock,
Happy birthday, that's all I have.
thank you.
Good.
All right, very good. And then move over to our council people. Mrs. Gatos, do you have anything this evening?
I'll just tell you happy birthday, and then Mr. Poach is having a birthday next Thursday, and my daughter's having one Tuesday. So happy
You're
birthday,
44
everyone.
too, right?
Happy birthday to everybody.
Everybody, happy birthday.
Exactly.
Not
Eric,
for tonight,
happy
that
birthday.
is plenty happy New Year, everyone.
Great. Mr. Poach.
Happy New Year to everyone else. Thank you.
Very good. Mr.
I know
Harvey,
you
please.
guys are always waiting for me. Some of the stuff's being held till Tuesday, but I did want to thank the Gateway School District, the art department, and all of the art students that took place in designing the new emblem for MS4. I would like to thank the school board members who were judges, along with Councilman Poach, Arasinko, and Mayor Griesbach for being judges. And I'm going to stop there, and I'll let the mayor explain what's going to happen next month. And other than that, I'll wait till Tuesday on these other ones.
Great.
Thank you.
And happy birthday, everybody.
Great.
Thank you. Mr. Johns, please.
Go easy. Happy birthday to everybody, especially you,
All right.
Mayor Griesel.
Hey, I appreciate
Thank
that. Mr. Arasinko.
Well, happy birthday to both of you for sure, and happy New Year to everybody. And I will pass out council assignments on Tuesday.
Excellent. Mr. Wilson.
Happy birthday to the mayor, Dr. Griesbach, and our council representative, Mr. Poach.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year and Healthy New Year to everyone. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Wilson.
And I was thank everybody for the birthday wishes. Happy birthday to Mr. Poach. And then as far as the, what Mr. Harvey touched on, as far as the MS4 logo design, we had a competition with the Gateway students to design the new logo for the, through the MS4 program. We had a very difficult task, a lot of amazing talent and presentations. Mrs. Warning was there as well, and it was a challenging task that we had. We have a lot of talented kids at Gateway, so they did a super job. But we did come up with a winner, a finalist, and we're going to be unveiling that logo at the February meeting, and also inviting that individual here to the meeting to kind of pat them on the back and tell them they did a great job.
Okay.
So it was a really nice exercise.
Motion to adjourn?
And we're gonna present them with a check.
Yeah, which is why he or she did it.
Exactly. So at any rate, that was great, and with that, I'm gonna seek a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and good night.